And welcome to another episode of Experts Speak. I'm Michael DeLon. Today I'm talking with Dena Prastos. Dena, thank you for being with me, spending some time with me today.
Thank you for having me, Michael. It's my pleasure.
You are welcome. Dena is the founder of Indigo River. It's an architectural design firm that specializes in waterfront solutions. So we're gonna dive into that because it's really fascinating. And I tell you what, Dan, I'm just going to stop. We're going to dive into it as you and I talk. But tell me, how in the world did you get doing what you're doing today?
So I grew up in Anchorage, Alaska, and have a deep appreciation for nature and for robust kind of architectural and infrastructure systems. And I studied architecture in school. I studied civil engineering in school. I found myself in New York Harbor, focusing again on wherever I could find nature, which in New York City, as you can imagine, it's hard to do in the concrete jungle that we have. But at the waterfront edge, anytime you have kind of man-made meeting nature, meeting the water, that's where I find nature in the city. So I focus on waterfront infrastructure, and that's anything from bulkhead or seawall to a marina to a port to a ferry terminal, in and around New York Harbor and the country at large.
Okay. So you and your firm then work on, dare I say, you work on the edge of the world because outside of that, it goes right into the sea most of the time or some kind of a water thing, right?
Absolutely, yes.
I love people who live on the edge. So this is great. And you're not necessarily designing condos or things, which I guess you could, but you're working on like explain a little bit more. What all kinds of things do you work on?
Yeah, so it's atypical that you find an architect that admittedly does not focus on designing buildings. And
Right.
I don't work on buildings. I don't work on the architecture, the whether it's residential or whatever the programmatic area is. Actually, I'm able to work on all different types of program, but whatever that condition is at the edge where nature meets man-made, where dry meets wet. And so the different types of infrastructure that we routinely work on are things like marinas and docks and piers and wharfs and quays and ferry terminals, ferry landings, and really just anywhere where the dry meets the wet. And sometimes it's restoring a natural condition if it was a natural shoreline, restoring what it was. And it's really exciting place to work, especially right now during a kind of a climate change focus, where it's a vulnerable condition.
Yeah. No, that's fascinating. I was on your website and I saw one, it looked like, dare I say, a playground for kids and families where the water meets the land. And what hit me was a number of years ago, my in-laws celebrated their 50th wedding anniversary, and they splurged and took all of us up to the North Shore of Minnesota. And I mean, big rocks and boulders and piers and all kinds of, and that is the kind of thing that you would excel in is taking something like that and saying, how do we create something here that embodies all of nature and allows people to interact with the what? Is that fair? Did I get it?
Absolutely. And a lot of the time, the condition you're describing is a natural condition, and you wonder, why is it pe that people are swimming at this natural beach? What about it makes it so that the wave climate isn't too harsh? And those are kind of cues that we take to imitate nature and really, as a theme, weave biomimicry into our process.
That's fascinating. Okay, so in your firm, y'all work around the world. I mean, you're kind of stationed in what the New York area, kind of, but
Yep.
you can do work anywhere. Is that right?
That's right. So we're based out of New York Harbor, but we have several portfolio clients, whether it's hotel groups, hospitality groups, or marina groups, where we'll start with, at the beginning, if they're looking to purchase a property, go out and conduct a vulnerability assessment, go out and conduct a, cost estimate of what repairs need to be done, whether or not it's a worthwhile investment. And that's all over the country and all over the world.
Okay. So I've just got this vision now of some hotel group wanting to buy a place in the Dominican Republic, right on the beach. They don't know if it's going to work or not, so they can call in you. You fly to the Dominican or whatever, and you do all of this research around how are we going to make your concrete hotel thing and the everything that gets out to the sea and all that not only ecological, I guess, but wonderful for people and beautiful and amazing and that it?
Yeah, and resilient to nature's battles. So one of the things about working in on and with the water is that we're comfortable when we're supposed to be in the water, we're supposed to be wet, but we're also comfortable where there's a condition that's supposed to stay dry, but with climate change, sea level rise is becoming wet. And so we focus on what can be done from a flood mitigation standpoint and to create resiliency for built infrastructure and or to have a high level decision point of, is it worth reinvesting in the existing infrastructure or is it something that we should design new?
Okay. Wow. There's a lot that goes into that, isn't there? I can't even imagine. I'm trying to get my head around all of this. You also talked about like ferry ports and marinas and all of that. So if I'm thinking like, Florida Keys, or I guess marinas are everywhere, honestly.
Yeah, all over.
And
Lake conditions too.
yeah, so if somebody so you don't have to be on the edge of the world working. You could work inside the United States someplace or wherever
And we do,
because
yeah, whether it's a river or a lake, wherever there's a water condition, or if it's a, dried up stream bed that conditionally floods, depending on the weather. We do have, project all over the country, obviously a primary focus on our coastlines, but
right.
there's wet conditions all over the world.
That's right. That's right. And one of the cool things that I'm starting to now understand is that if if you don't come in and do something to a wetland area or to a place where the water is encroaching, let's say, that's going to continue to take over the environment. It's going to
Mhm.
diminish the beauty, the natural beauty at one level, and people are going to go away from that because it's not safe, it's not fun. But so you can come in and re-beautify, re-engage it, right?
Absolutely, make more resilient so that we can continue to enjoy the conditions that we have previously, despite the changing climate conditions.
Yeah, yeah. So I used to live in Little Rock, Arkansas. Arkansas is a beautiful state for a lot of outdoorsy type things, right? But it's because people like you, I think, have come in and built bridges and walkways around this natural thing where you can walk, you can see, you can get down, you can hike, you can, and all of that. Dare I say, I just take it for granted. I forget that people like you exist who actually come in before all of us and go, oh no, no, no. We got to make sure all of this is in place so that you can enjoy the beauty with your family.
Absolutely. So, yes, focusing on creating recreational environments that people can enjoy and get in touch with nature, but also from a safe position on man-made infrastructure.
Right. That's fascinating. And so your team, I mean, you got to understand not just construction, but you got to understand waves and all that stuff. I mean, it just it takes it to a different level, I think.
Yeah, we do, and our team is unique in that we're not a group of architects. We are quite diversified in what our backgrounds are. We have engineers, we have planners, we do have architects, and then within each of those verticals, we have under architecture, we have traditionally trained, I'll put in air quotes, building architects, but really infrastructure architects. We have naval architects that focus on floating things. We have landscape architects. And then under planners, our planners specialize in climate science and climate change and climate adaptation, whether in and around urban areas or also along coastal areas, coastal zones, just looking through a different lens at a different scale. And then our engineers are probably the most diversified in that we have, civil engineers like my background, but we also have engineers that have worked in the construction industry for a bulk of their career and are able to understand the nuances of building in on and with the water. We have marine engineers, we have professional engineers that are divers that go down and inspect things that we can't see from the surface. We have ecological engineers and environmental engineers, and kind of it runs the gamut of different disciplines that all come together to focus on the waterfront so that when we're designing, we do so in an integrated approach.
I laugh because it blows my mind to think about all of that to go, wow, who would have thought it takes that much stuff to build something that we most of us just take for granted. Right. So thank you for what you do because without people like you in the world, we're not enjoying nature and the sea and all of that. Um, my grandparents lived on a lake, and I remember the concrete thing that stopped the water from coming up over the, I don't know what you call that thing, but I remember that,
Breakwater.
and the pier and all that, and those things just appeared, right? But no, somebody like Dena actually got down there and figured it all out to know how high and how thick and how. And it's like, wow, that's interesting. And as we look at our world, I live in Kentucky now, beautiful area, a lot of waterlands, a lot of farms and things, but a lot of places to dive into, a lot of caves, a lot of water, and big bodies of, and so now I've got a new perspective as I go out to a marina and rent a boat for a day to to not take it for granted, to go, wait a minute, there's a lot that has to go into this for me to enjoy it, let alone the people who are owning the hotels and the restaurants and all of that, who want to do it near the water's edge, especially in cities like New York and things of that nature, because of the beauty that's there. There's something different about getting near the ocean anyway. And unpack that, and why is that? I get, and maybe from your background in Alaska, that nature aspect that draws something out of just about everybody when we get there, and then the scenery and the architecture is all working together. Unpack that a little bit, because there's something there.
Absolutely. No, I empathize with the sentiment. There's something about approaching an edge condition, and if you're in an urban environment, often you'll find at the edge you have just a greater view corridor that you're not kind of boxed in by buildings. And there's certainly something about interacting with nature, whether it's even just a visual interaction or being able to get down and go into the water, that is different than kind of any other condition. It's also more vulnerable to the changes we're experiencing with the climate. So it's a condition that's fun to play in, but it's also a condition that's important to protect, because we look at some of the threats and vulnerabilities coming to us, and those are the conditions that we design for, but all the while continuing to design for that recreation and that connection that we as a population can have with the environment.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very cool. My son used to live out in California, LA area, and we were visiting one time, and they took us, driving, and we stopped along the side of the road, and there was this big park, right? And then they had a stairway that went down into like a cove, and off to the, I don't know, 300 yards away, 200 yards away, there were seals laying up on the rocks. Now we couldn't get to them, but we could see them because of somebody like you created this vista and the way for us to get down to the ocean, the water. And it's that's one example of something you could come in and create that probably didn't exist before. And it's the thing to keep bringing up is I think is really important, is from my perspective anyway. I see concrete and I see rails, and I say man's encroaching into nature because we love it. And you're sitting there going, yes, and we're protecting the nature and we're planning for other things that I don't have any idea even exist, right?
Yep, absolutely. It goes both ways. So, as much as we focus on sustainability and our impact on the environment, we're also hyper focused on resiliency and the environment's impact on man-made.
Yeah, yeah, which is really important, because if my great grandkids want to enjoy that, it has to be resilient. It has to withstand the tests of time. And what you and I both know, nature has a way of like beating back what we put out sometimes. And so you've got to
Nature
look at
is persistent. Yes.
it really is. And at the same time, super beautiful. And when you can design something that, I don't know if we can enhance nature's beauty, maybe. I don't know, but if you can design it so that we get to enjoy the beauty of nature in a safe way, in an engaging way, I think it gives us a greater appreciation for nature and of where we live. And it's like, this is really cool. So well done.
Absolutely. Thank you.
What types of organizations, companies, governments do you work with? Who should be thinking about reaching out to you, and when? When is it too early, or when is it too late?
Never too early. Also never too late, but better early than late. We work with private and public clients alike. Public clients can be any, economic development corporation or any asset manager. There are quite a few funds going toward resiliency efforts, kind of climate proofing different assets. And then there's also quite a diverse portfolio we have of private clients, and it could be, a private marina owner, it could be a private homeowner that has a seawall that's falling derelict and needs to be repaired. It could be someone who lives on the water and wants to have access to the water and have a dock put in. Or a kayak ramp, or a boat launch, or all different types of infrastructure that really connect the dry and the wet, the nature and the man-made. And so no project too small, no project too large. We love kind of playing in all of the different spaces because they ultimately inform our design process at the end.
Interesting. Okay, well that's good. That's very insightful because I guess I came into this thinking that you're this, big firm that deals with massive hotels and governments and things. And at the same time, you're like, well, yes. And if you own a house on a beach and you can't get to the beach, call me. I
Yeah,
can probably figure something out that gives you what you want and protects the environment and makes it a beautiful place. Everywhere in between is what Dena and her team can help you with. Dena, how would somebody reach out, find out more about you, connect with you all, and say, hey, all right, here's what I'm thinking. Is this even worth a conversation, or can you help? Where would they go?
absolutely. First place is our website, indigoriver.com. I'm also active on LinkedIn, even social media, Instagram, just all under my name or Indigo River.
Excellent. Okay, so I'm going to grab some of that. I'm going to put it in the show notes because a lot of my listeners are busy entrepreneurs and business owners and probably homeowners on the ocean. So they need to know where you are. So I'm going to grab that, put it in the show notes. And Dena, thank you. I mean, this is really fascinating. This is a fun conversation for me because it's way outside of where I normally talk and think. But you've impacted me in that the next time I'm out in nature, whether it's in Kentucky or Arkansas or on the beach, you're probably going to come to my mind. I'm going to look at something differently now and have a greater appreciation, not just for nature, but for the design elements, the thinking that had to go in place for me to be able to enjoy that as I go from dry to wet and back. Thanks for taking your skills and abilities and just, I guess, making the world a better place. It's really cool.
Awesome. Well, thank you for having me, Michael. It's been a joy to have the conversation with you.
You are so welcome. Take care, everybody. Thanks for listening to Experts Speak. Reach out, see if Dena and her team can help you. All the information you need is in the show notes. I appreciate you listening to Experts Speak. Yeah, Experts Speak. Take care. God bless.